Welcome to Dr. Krystal's podcast, Inspiring Sacred Stories. I am your host, Dr. Krystal, a doctor of East Asian medicine and a holistic transformational coach. Here we will shine light on wisdom keepers, paradigm shifters who inspire us to live thriving, joyful lives. Let's be inspired. Although I am a doctor of East Asian medicine, this podcast is for educational and inspirational purposes only. It does not replace professional medical advice. Please consult a qualified healthcare provider for guidance on your personal health needs. Welcome to Dr. Krystal's podcast, Inspiring Sacred Stories. I am your host, Dr. Krystal, and today I am joined by Celia De Rudder. She is an intuitive channel and cosmic ambassador connected with Syrian frequencies. She works with light language and embodied presence. She is also a mom, a wife, an oracle deck creator, and devoted lover of animals. Her work bridges the cosmic and the everyday, helping people live their truth on Earth. Welcome, Celia.
Thank you. It's so fun to be here.
I know, it's such a joy. So what does sacred mean to you?
I think sacred has to do with these moments in life where it's like a portal into something else, like there's a before and an after. And I think, there's these moments in time where just things shift, and something happens, like these, what you call sacred moments. And then so we move into a new dimension maybe, or a new portal, a new timeline, I think is the word a lot of people use.
Oh, I love that. And what is the sacred story that wants to come through you today? I know that you have many. I've had several. I've had almost a decade with you, and so I can just imagine the magic that wants to come through.
I think what I'd like to share, what I think would be useful is, as you know, I've been dizzy for the last 4 years, 24/7. And the dizziness it came in kind of in the middle of the night and hasn't really left since. And so I had to completely change because of it. Like I was raised in a way that being available to people and, um, my value and my worth was very much about how looking after people, taking care of people. And then suddenly the dizziness came in and I couldn't do that anymore. Like listening to people made me dizzy, watching anything made me dizzy. My whole life had to be reconstructed day by day. Like there was no longer a long-term plan of what I had to do. I just had to reinvent a whole, on a day-to-day, moment-to-moment basis. And, I am still dizzy and I'm still dealing with it, but it's in a way, I'm like, it gave me license to step out of an ancestral role that had been really defining me for such a long time. And I was talking about it with my daughter. I don't believe in negative and positive things. I often feel that things come in, to help us move, to help us grow, when we won't allow ourselves to do that, or when some of our conditioning is so deep that we can't move on. And so, I really see this as a sacred moment. It's been a difficult one, a very challenging one, but I think it's been a very rewarding one too.
Right. So how are you still as dizzy as you were several years ago when it came on?
I'm still dizzy and it comes and goes and I can't figure out the trigger. And that's okay. I've come really to a place of peace about it. It might be there with me for my whole life, for the next foreseeable future, or maybe it'll disappear one day. I mean, who knows, right? But I've come, instead of seeing it as something that's been a real issue, because it really has been, I see it really as like, okay, well, this is telling me to slow down. Like my nervous system can't do this right now, or right now, my body, it's like my body took over and said, no more of all this conditioning. This is not what we're doing anymore. And every time I would try and go back into that role, it'd be like, no, dizziness. So in a way, I feel like, dizziness and soul go hand in hand. My soul's like, nope, don't like this anymore. It's time to move on to something else. So the body goes, okay, dizzy. Let's make you dizzy for 24 hours. So it's been an interesting ride. And I think it's been a very sacred one. Once you stop, not rejecting it, but kind of, you go to this place of surrender around it, right? And you say, okay, this is going to be maybe with me for the rest of my life. Like how am I going to work with it? Instead of seeing it as a problem, why don't I see it as a friend? And I think that's been the big shift this year, at least.
Yeah, so leaning in and it being an acceptance. Would you coincide this with perimenopause, menopause at all?
A lot of people say that dizziness comes from that. It doesn't feel connected to that, even though that's what I am going through. I mean, um, yeah, it could be many things. I just see it as now like a signal to slow down. Like I just came back from Europe and I was fine in Europe, and then as soon as I landed back here, full blown dizziness.
Mm.
And I say to my husband, I'm allergic to Asheville. And he looks at me in utter horror, but, in a way, like, I had to just slow down and, like, reground and find my footing, so I just feel like it's information most of the time, even though it's really unpleasant information. Sometimes.
Well, some say that, perimenopause and menopause is this rite of passage where the hormones are shifting and changing and we become it's no longer like that all those hormones that produce uh people pleasing and caretaking. It's like all of a sudden now, no, I have a voice. I'm not going to do all these things. So it to me, it sounds like it's just part of this sacred rite of passage that you're walking through, is like becoming like, the queen, and your body's signal is saying like, no. I'm not doing these things that I used to do or that it was in my ancestral line. And, so I'm just sort of I don't wanna yeah, I just see this as this, like, beautiful rite of passage, and some would say it's like the kundalini rising as you step into the wise one, the wisdom keeper, and you've made this oracle deck, and from the time that I've known you, when I met you, you were so empathic, and you still are, so intuitive and knew things and could feel things and always wanted to be like that coach and that guide because you would get these messages from, higher guides and then you've had to like go into a cave to protect yourself a little bit, right? And then you're in this cocoon and you're transforming, and um it's just been so beautiful to watch. And your oracle deck, like, how is that connected to this sort of also is kinda has come out during this time of the dizziness and right? Isn't it kind of, like the light frequency codes and, um
It's
yeah,
all
tell
yeah,
me.
it's all kind of the same thing, isn't it? I agree with you, this, like, it's a womb state, right? This perimenopause before we kind of, you know and the estrogen that's lowering that makes us so adaptable, this estrogen that makes us people pleasing and adaptable and caretaking, that's getting lower and lower. And that's, I always say it's this phase. I know I'm not supposed to do it, but it's like this phase, and it's very liberating. So, the oracle that well, I got back in 2021, so this is before I was dizzy. I
Oh,
got all these light language symbols. I got hundreds of them.
wow.
And then, I went into full-blown dizziness, and I just didn't do anything with them. And then last year was like, "No, now despite the dizziness," this is what I'm saying, despite the dizziness, I have to continue moving. And so I created this oracle deck with 46 of the symbols that I have, the ones that apparently needed to be shared with the world right now and that could be useful. And so, yeah, that was a real birthing because it was the energy of 2021 that I had to pick up. And if you know me, I'm a one and done type of person. Like once the energy is out, it's out. And so I had to go back into this energy and give birth to this. And it's been quite a birth. It's been a really interesting few months. That's all I can say since I launched it. So I'm, yeah, very
Can
proud of it. It's a lot
yeah.
of here it is. It's been a lot of hard work, but it's also been the one thing I'm really proud of these last 4 years because I've been so incapacitated by the dizziness that I've still managed to receive. Because part of the dizziness was also my channel wasn't as clear as it used to be, and so I had to really navigate things differently and pause, and things take a much longer to come through now than they used to. Like I used to get instantaneous hit now, and I have to sit down and go, okay, I can listen, I can receive. So it's a whole process. But I agree with you. These few years of perimenopause, I wish people would see them as a rite of passage as opposed to just physical symptoms, that the medical profession sees as, whatever it is. But the rise of Kundalini, the stepping into this wise woman, and yeah, a whole new role.
Yeah, it's a spiritual awakening. And those don't always feel good until we get on the other side. What can you explain for people who may not know, like, what is light language?
So light language is a cosmic language, and it's if you believe in star seeds, so star seeds being that we come from the stars and we have star families, and that we have galactic guides and families. Well, there's like this common language that's spoken across the whole galactic universe, whatever, and it's light language. It's a love language, and the mind doesn't understand it, which is what's so cool about it. So I used to use it a lot in my sessions because to allow healing to come through, you need to kind of destabilize the mind. So I'd give people light language, and the heart receives it. It just loves it. It knows what to do with it, but the mind goes, "Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God," and so the energy comes through. So I've always used light language in my sessions for that, but also their frequencies, right? It's a language of love. So you're sending frequencies to people, so it does all sorts of things to you, to your heart, to your field. It's I just love light language, and there's not one. There's like multiple, but they seem to all understand each other.
Mm.
And so you can get upgraded all sorts of things through the light language.
So yours you drew, but I've heard people speak like language. Do you speak like
I
language or do you
do.
just you
I
do?
do. I do both, yeah. It came first through speaking, and then actually I started having all these symbols that I drew. But actually, if I go back to when I was in high school and terribly bored, I used to draw these symbols all the time. They look like doodles to me, but actually these were symbols that I was also already like writing back in the way back in the day.
That's amazing. Do you feel comfortable sharing spoken light language?
Sure. Ke achuata asakawanaka shi e ata kashini awate ke asi ata inini atu asi akushikuata nakashakusi ere inaka uata ishi a iata kashi awata a. So just a little short.
That's so beautiful. Are you able to interpret it into English?
It depends on, like, the context. So before I got onto the call, I asked for a I can show you the symbol that I got for the call, and it was a card of accountability.
So this
And
is
it
written light language, yes?
no,
This
it probably it's accountability's on on the bottom, but it's actually the symbol of
yeah, the
accountability.
symbol.
And
Yeah.
and in my oracle deck, accountability is the symbol of power. It's the opposite of being a victim. And so my sense of the energy coming through is about empowerment, which is what we're already talking about how instead of feeling a victim, being a victim of what we go through these moments, if we saw them as sacred moments of empowerment, our whole perspective would be completely different. So instead of limiting something to maybe the physical aspects, like what if we took a whole other perspective and a spiritual perspective and said, well, actually, I'm growing. This is what my body needs to grow and expand and become a bigger, fuller version of itself.
Oh, I love that. That that's such good wisdom to share with people. And so do you feel like the language that came through to you was an extension of that card that you pulled?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, because what I felt like watching your hands and hearing the words, it's like it's this higher frequency coming through that is healing on a level that is, beyond mind comprehension.
Absolutely.
You know, when I Adam and I went to Ireland and did our hand fast, the woman and this other woman did this spontaneous, light language healing over me for my 50th and gave me this sword, and I had tears streaming down, like, uncontrollable, like, it was like I couldn't, and I couldn't comprehend intellectually what was happening, but on a cellular and a soul level, something massive and beautiful was happening. It was like nothing I've ever experienced, and, that's funny, like, have known you how long, and this is the first I've heard that you speak light language?
Well, then I guess we haven't had many sessions together, right? But that's what I would say. What I would say to you also is, I think it's also a remembrance. Like, usually people have full body reactions to light language. Like because the mind goes like this, then like the body, like, they have tingles, they cry, they laugh, it brings up all sorts of things. And I think it's because it's something that we remember deep in our core, deep at a soul level, even, beyond our in a multidimensional self. It's a place that we recognize. And
Mm.
so it's like, "Oh my gosh, somebody finally sees me, hears me in a way that makes sense to my soul," you know?
Right. And the Syrian frequencies that you work with, how would you explain that to people?
Well,
Because
they're
you and I can, our little small circles, but someone else who's listening to this, they might be like, "What is she talking about?"
So the symbols are just a physical representation of certain frequencies, right? There's loads, and I think they're always evolving too. So one of the things I say about my oracle deck is that the symbols, like if I were to show you symbol, it's represented in the 2D because I had to, but actually it's like the tip of an iceberg because underneath there's like a whole like potential of energy and understanding and healing that can come through. And every time like you use it. Like somebody client reached out today and said, Celia, I want to get the sounds right. And I said, the sounds don't really matter. What's more important is that you connect to the symbol and go and just speak whatever wants to come out because it's kind of like multidimensional and endless layers of energy and potential available. And I think that's how you have to see light language. It's like not fixed. It can mean many things in different contexts, and it depends how you use it and how you intend it, right? And how it wants to come through. Because it is it's not something you can control. The sense I get about it is like, it's not like a language, like, you that you would speak in a certain way. It comes through the way the person needs to receive it.
Right? That makes
Kind
sense.
it's kind of its own inner intelligence. It's like I always say my symbols are alive because I really believe that they keep morphing and adapting to whoever is using them and whoever connects with them. Whatever you need, then they become an extension of that. So I think that's what's pretty cool about them.
Right. And so are these symbols also Syrian? You're in your bio, you said you work with the Syrian frequencies?
So I have a connection with Sirius, like and I spend a lot of time on Sirius, if I'm perfectly honest. I tend to fall asleep on Sirius every night too. And so I go back up there to get recalibrated, but also receive information. And so for some reason, what I received is Syrian. It's not the only starseed language or light language out there, but for me, that's where I'm at. I'm just maybe expanding into something else, but it's not clear what it is yet. But for now, it's Sirius and yeah, whatever's happening. So there's a whole a whole work load that's coming out. That'll be coming out this year that I'm going to be publishing on Sirius and more information on different things from Sirius that have kind of resulted, that have come out of the Oracle deck, and that will be available sometime soon.
Oh,
So it's like the Oracle deck, I think, was just like the first piece just to open it up, and now it's just like there's a lot of information that I need to share.
that is so exciting. And so when you speak about that, you're talking about the planet,
I am.
right? Yeah, and the light beings that are connected and associated with that planet, just
Yeah.
like the Palladians, the stars,
Yeah.
yeah, right. Just so in case someone's listening and they've never heard of it, I mean, we have, but maybe, other people, it's maybe not so mainstream yet. And um,
That's a good point.
yeah. And um, so if someone were to have a dizzy spell, since you started that with your sacred story, what are some things that helped you to center and ground and be able to lean into um, the wisdom and the gifts coming from that?
I mentioned it. It's the surrendering into the dizziness instead if you've done it plant medicine or anything, there's so much surrender in that. And so I think what I learned is instead of refusing to go into the dizziness, I just dive into it now. Like it's there, and I'll just literally let it take over my body. That has been my biggest godsend. But then there's so many ways to. I've done so many things to try and address it, like from seeing doctors to chiropractors to. So I think everybody needs to try something. You need to follow because I think it's not only an experience. I think it's also a learning opportunity. You're being skilled up. I always say that whatever you're going through, you're being skilled up in some way or another. So if you see it as a skilling up, like you're being taught all these new skills, this new understanding of the world of yourself, then it's a much more dynamic experience together. It's not like me and the dizziness, it's us together going through this thing together. It's like it's much more of a collaboration. So that's what I would say. Stop resisting it, go into it, and it's more or less pleasant, but I find the more I go into it quickly, the more I come out of it quickly.
Right.
Like
It's
plant
like
medicine.
yeah, and some may call it ascension symptoms too, right? You've heard that. But
Yeah.
I like the way you say it, like a you're skilling. What did you call it? Upscaling,
Yeah, I'm getting skilled up, yeah. I'm being
skilled
taught
up. I
new sk
love that. Skilled
I'm
up.
being skilled, I'm being taught, so I've learned so much about the body in these last few years, it's been amazing. Like, I was always very intuitive, but maybe not grounded enough, or maybe I didn't have an understanding of how everything interacted in the body. We're beyond like a meat sack, like an envelope. There's we have 10 energy systems that are cohabiting, and then I'm sure there's much more that we don't know yet. And so just understanding all of that and how we can, consolidate and solidify those energy systems in the body, and how that brings congruency to everything. That's been super interesting. So, I've learned a lot. I'm not gonna, but yeah.
Yeah, you're a wonderful student, right? It reminds me of Yale, a woman I had on the podcast who's an astrologer, and she spoke a lot about, embracing our shadow negative feelings instead of constantly trying to run from the discomforts, but more going into them, and that's how they're able to neutralize and not cause so much suffering. And that's kind of what I'm hearing you say about these physical symptoms. Instead of trying to run from it, you're surrendering and going into it, and then it's a co-creation, and then you're learning from it and growing and skilled up. I love that term. That's such a cool term. I've never heard that.
Somebody said something to me one day, and that's kind of she was talking about cancer, so it doesn't apply to what I was. But the general idea was that we make disease something that's not us. So it's, or we call it my cancer, my this, and we're at war with cancer. And she said, actually, it's like a part of us, right? It's a part of us that's doing its thing. If we start hating on it and we start loving it and trying to understand what it is it's trying to share with us, how would that change the whole dynamic and what's going on in the body? And I think if you look at the grieving process in anything that you do, you go through these different phases, which can be, when we can talk about the five elements, you go through the five elements in Chinese medicine, but the grieving process is kind of the same. You're shocked, and then you're angry, and then you're heartbroken, and then you're anxious and trying to change the world, and then finally you let go and you surrender, right? And then there's like this mini death, and then we go through the process again. And I think that's kind of what it is every time. It's like you go through these. I've cried. I've been so angry. I've been in deep despair. You can ask my husband. He's seen me go through, he wakes up and he's like, what state is she in today? Because depending on how dizzy I feel, I can cope with life or not. And I keep going through these over and over, but they're getting easier and easier to go through too. So there's also a um, deep learning and deep surrender. Oh my gosh, surrender. And so much despair.
Yeah, I know. I've witnessed it myself, and I've always admired your ability to go in and your courage to feel the feelings. You aren't afraid to feel the feelings and let them be your teacher. And I've always admired and respect that about you. And you're just such a gifted, intuitive, empathic, loving, compassionate, wise woman. So
No, thank you.
you are welcome.
I receive that with a lot of gratitude.
Take it in, sister. So before we close, what's a sacred practice that you do that you might want to share with others?
Well, one of my big things is family for us. Our family unit, my relationship with my husband, that's so sacred, but also my children, being around my children is so important for me. The big thing I think I've learned from all of this, which I come back to, is like that we're a piece of the divine in a human body, and we forget that this is our sacred temple. And I always, I my practice is to really come back to my body is a temple. It's housing a piece of this divine. So what is it that my body, this sacred temple, needs? Because when you think like that, I think it's less about pushing and forcing, and it's more this co-creative process. One of the main things I learned in these 4 years is to actually communicate with my body, and I do it through muscle testing. And every day I go back to my body, like, what do you need? What do you need? What do you need? What do you need right now? Because it changes throughout the day. What would support, what's making me dizzy? It's this constant dialogue with my body, which I think has been actually very empowering. And I wish people would understand how easy it is and how empowering it is. Maybe that's why we got the card of accountability, because when you start really listening to your body, I find my body is so much wiser than my head. Because it can see things in 360, it can anticipate things in a way the head can't. There's so much wisdom in waiting to be exchanged with our bodies. And I feel like our bodies are so frustrated because we're not listening. And there's so much there, like so much available, but we're still all up here, instead of going down and going, okay, body, you are the wise one. You're pulling up all this energy from the earth. You're constantly emitting, processing, because your body emits information and then draws it in constantly through your aura. There's so much happening in your body, and we're all like, you know, what can I see? What can I hear? What can I smell? Kind of thing. So that would be my sacred practice, is coming back to the body every day. I muscle test multiple times a day. You'll see me in any supermarket testing all the food to see what my body wants. So I've really made this relationship with the body the most important and sacred thing for me. How can I support it to thrive? And if it thrives, then my soul thrives. And then if my soul thrives, my body thrives. So it's this really deep connection between the two.
Oh, I love that. That's such good wisdom. So muscle testing, there's lots of different ways to do it. I mean, I don't know if you have a simple way, but someone said that they would put their left and their right hand out, and if their left hand had more energy, that meant yes, and if their right hand had more energy, more weight, it would be no, or if you leaned forward, it meant yes, or if you leaned back, it meant no. Um,
That's the most well-known one, and I think it's the easiest one to do when you're in public. And I've learned through I've learned to use certain muscles. Like I use my small intestine muscle, which is a quad muscle. And I always say, when you start off muscle testing, muscle test for the stuff that's not important. So if you're hesitating between 2 chocolates in a supermarket, it doesn't matter. It's not going to change your life. So that as you build the muscle and you start really hearing your body for the important things, it will come in. Because if you're like going, should I marry this person? Your body's going to go. Whereas if you've been training it, should I eat this bread? Should I eat this pasta? Should I take these vitamins? What vitamins do I need? And you keep building this rapport slowly, then when it comes to the more serious things, you'll actually trust your body. Because I think it's a lot about trust. We've been profoundly taught to distrust our bodies. They're up there trying to trip us. They're trying to make us sick. And I don't believe that. I profoundly believe that the body is always looking for homeostasis. And it doesn't know how to do it sometimes. Like it gets blocked, it has PTSD, whatever it is, but it's always looking to go back to homeostasis. And I don't think it's working against us. I just think that we misinterpret what it's trying to do.
yeah, I know, right? Trusting the wisdom of your innate wisdom of your body, your soul, your spirit, your heart. Yes. So how can people find you and your beautiful oracle deck?
Well, everything's on my website, so intuitivelifepaths.com. And then I'm making a big effort. So if you know me, I'm pretty shy, and as I launched my deck, I also had to kind of let go of this shyness, and so I've launched myself in a bigger way. So I'm on YouTube, on TikTok, on Instagram and Facebook, and so I try and post a little bit. It's just stuff that helps people. And yeah, you can find all that on my website, and I think the links will be put underneath, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So
Okay.
whatever. I'm just trying to. My idea with posting is just trying to post stuff that could be useful. That's kind of my. I'm not a great salesperson, and I don't want to sell. I just want to say, hey, this could be useful right now. Right now, the energies or the frequencies need this. And that was the whole idea behind the deck. So every symbol you can use in a way, so you can put them on the body. They have amplifiers. So there's a whole world around the symbols that's just helpful. Like, I'm having a bad day. Let me pull a card. Let me chuck it on whatever chakra it resonates with. Let me use whatever essential oil it likes. and then just apply that to whatever you need in your life. So it's very practical, down to earth. It's actually spiritual stuff, but I've kind of trying to make it really down to earth, so that people can just have fun using them.
Well, thank you for being on here today.
Thank you for having me. It's always a treat to see you.
Yes, you too. And thank you for the listeners. Remember that your healing is sacred and you are not alone, and we are all family here.
Thank you for joining me on Dr. Krystal's podcast, Inspiring Sacred Stories. If today's episode lifted you up, I'd love if you shared it with a friend, subscribe, leave a comment. It helps more people discover these stories of light and transformation. And if you'd like to work with me more closely, head over to www.drkrystalkinnunen.com. And as a thank you for listening to the show, you'll receive $20 off your first session. Details are also in the show notes. Remember, in this time of rapid change and transformation, you are not alone. You are part of a greater shift, and your inspired life matters. Until next time, let's be inspired.